Chapter 8. The day at work dragged slowly, the worst he'd ever experienced. Zac had always loved it here at Libros Antiques, and never even considered it as work. Since the first day he volunteered with old Jim Fraid, every single day never felt like work, and he couldn't believe he got paid for doing this dream job. Except for today. This morning's glimpse at the book, that curious book, had got him excited and he wanted to read more. He had so many questions. Who had written the orange glowing writing? Could it be possible that they wrote it to him? How did the writer know the exact time and date that Zac would read it, or that he would have his torch in his mouth? How could someone write in it without him knowing? There were so many questions, and he simply could not wait to get back home and read more. He daren't take it to work with him, so before he left the house, he locked it up in the safe at his flat. By the time he closed the shop, he had only sold 3 books, so he locked up early to escape the boredom and used it as an excuse to get home to the journal. Even the taxi seemed to go slower today. When he finally arrived at the building where he lived, he almost ran up the stairwell in excitement, missing every second step. Arriving at his flat, he swiped the ID fob, unlocking the front door, and after opening it, he stopped and stared. Something was wrong. The plant on the table in the hallway was on the floor, with its pot broken and earth spilt onto the carpet. All the doors along the hallway were open. He walked along the corridor towards the living room. He spotted the coffee table upturned, cushions from the sofa pulled apart, and the stuffing was thrown everywhere. All the cupboard doors in the kitchen were open, and everything was strewn across the bioplastic lino. Opening the fridge, Zac grabbed a beer and then called the police. The police came and went, taking a statement, retrieving the door lock logs, and issuing a software security patch to the door lock. Zac was told there had been a spate of thefts in the area with a fob cloner, so he would have to go on a waiting list, and they advised him to upgrade his locks. This was not good. The PHPC agent needed Zac's license fee, and his hardware wallet with its digital coins in it had also gone. Several hours later, the flat was back in some sort of livable condition, and he'd even rehung the broken cupboard door in the kitchen. In the office, the computer was untouched because of its biosecurity controls. No self-respecting thief even bothered to grab a computer these days. They were so traceable, it simply wasn't worth the hassle, and it was so old, it wasn't worth anything anyway. In the office cupboard, he slid open the curtain and looked disappointedly at the space where his exercise bike had been. Honestly, people would nick anything not screwed down, he thought to himself. The rug on the floor was still there, and he pulled it back to reveal the floor safe. Grabbing the book and his expensive whiskey from the hole in the floor, he headed to the living room and sat on the rest of the sofa to read. After a few minutes of reading, the wrist phone vibrated, and he answered it, sticking his finger in his ear. "Hello?" He sounded his best to appear upbeat, but his brother knew him too well. "Okay, what happened?" asked Dylan. They chatted about the break-in and life for a while, and then the conversation ended. "If there's anything I can do for you, bro, please get in touch and let me know." "Will do. Thanks for helping me feel better," replied Zac as he hung up. He picked up the book. There was nothing on the outside or inside of it except the scribbles that he wrote as a child. The orange writing had vanished. Then he remembered the black light and got to work replacing the light bulb in the torch. Grabbing the barrel of the torch with his lips and steadying it with his teeth, he switched it on, and the entire book of secrets came to life. He fist-pumped the air and then sat down and carried on reading the professor's notes. "If you could predict the future, would you want to?" he read. "Sometimes life is not about what you can see, but what you can't. What I am about to tell you is important to the world as you know it, but first there are some rules. 1. Never show this book to anyone else or reveal its contents. 2. You do not know what you do not know. 3. You must help us, Zac, to find out the truth of what happened to your father." What happened to my father? Who was this guy? How did he come across my journal? How does he know me? What does he know about my parents? There are way too many circumstances and unanswered questions here. Zac's mind was going into overdrive with all the questions. He carried on reading and looking at the many pictures, maps, and technical drawings. There was a lot of maths that he didn't understand, and some instructions. The more he read, the more he knew the professor's journal was intended for him. As he leafed through the pages, it became more apparent to him that the professor knew what happened to his father, and Zac had to find out. The house phone rang, but he was so involved with reading the professor's journal, he let the answering machine get it. It was Agent Santel with an update on payment methods and a request for Zac to call her back at the earliest chance. With every page he turned, he learned more and more about the professor's work, and he got almost a third of the way through when the torch battery went flat, instantly hiding the professor's handwritten notes. There was a second of silence, and in a moment of sheer brilliance he had an idea. He looked up at the ceiling, then shifted his gaze to the emergency lighting next to the main bulb. Within a few minutes he replaced the normal light bulb in his bedroom with the emergency blacklight. "Lights on!" he called out. The orange writing on his journal lit up again, and he carried on reading the professor's notes. The book contained some information about a secret laboratory, and Zac spotted some more maths equations. Whilst turning the page, a loose piece of paper fell out of the book onto the floor. Upon inspection, he noticed the paper was a map and picked it up to examine it further. The map showed the local area of New Haven, the boundary, the cave, and the old hospital between New Haven and his birth town of Kistowich, which included a detailed layout of the town drawn up before the disaster. There was a red outline of the new border, with some scribbles showing the differences between before and after the flood. Red circles highlighted Glenbrook Abbey, the old cinema, and the well, and a large red square outline showed the military fence with the letter K in the middle of it, and Zac realized that the scribbles show the difference between pre-flood Kistowich and the post-flood town. Flicking through the book, he noticed a list of items the professor had written to help Zac with the journey. Zac sat quietly and contemplated. There wasn't much for him here in New Haven. Someone had trashed his place, work was going to be hard now that he had to find more money to pay the PHPC, and to be honest, what else was there apart from his brother? He needed to do something, and he was curious to find out what happened to his father. To find the items on the list, Zac opened the storage closet next to the office. To his amazement, the thieves had not raided this room. Vacuum cleaner was still in its same spot, along with the brushes and brooms. His coat was still hanging up, and his toolbox was on the floor, still locked. Next to the toolbox was a battered old storm box, something of a relic from the days when his father had lived in the countryside, filled with necessities such as glow sticks, a small gas stove, and some tins of beans. Zac filled the rest of the backpack with items from the list and put fresh batteries into the torch. To get to the laboratory the professor had written about, he needed to go on a journey. Zac sat down and read some more. Then he read a rather strange sentence. It simply said, Lean forward. Lean forward? He thought to himself. What could that possibly mean? So he did. As he leant forward, he felt a slight tug on the back of his neck, and the ID fob lurched forward and stuck to the book. Well, that's weird, he thought to himself. He pulled on the ID fob, and it detached itself from the spine. Magnetic? What could it be sticking to? He thought. Curiously, he opened up the book. The spine gaped open, and a key slid onto the floor. Zac picked it up, examined it for a moment, and put it in his pocket, wondering to himself what it was for. Driven by the possibility that his father might still be alive, Zac hunted around his flat for all the stuff he needed for his break away from home. He grabbed an old green backpack he had used when he was on the backpacking holiday with his brother a few years ago, some rope, leather gloves, the glow sticks from the storm tin, and a bunch of other stuff on the professor's list, including more torch batteries and a couple of berry pop bars. Slinging the half-filled pack over his shoulder, he grabbed the journal and went to the front door. Every page he turned, he learned more and more about the professor's work and came across more pictures, lists, mathematical equations, and journal entries that described an experiment. A cloning experiment. Zac spotted several pages of complex mathematics stuff he simply didn't understand. This looked like it could be the adventure he was looking for, a chance to escape from the humdrum of life and find out what happened.